You. All right. Let's now bring to the conversation our friend Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, who is also in the room today and who I believe I also recognized in that same footage being ushered down that corridor not more than 50 or 60 feet from the mob just on the other side of those Capitol Police officers. Senator Klobuchar, I'm really glad you can make time to be here tonight.
Thank you.
I have to ask, did you learn things today about the peril that you yourself and you and your staff were at that you didn't know before seeing some of that footage today?
Well, I had staff because I was leading the fight against Ted Cruz, actually, to uphold the Electoral College votes. And I had just made the case after he spoke when all this happened. So I had staff that was in a room right where they entered in a closet with a fork. Two of them were there for 2 hours. So I had heard it from their perspective. And I actually didn't think as much about the senators. We were protected by the police. It's the police that I think people saw strikingly today, the officers shrieking, trying to defend our democracy. The story of the police officer who went into the rotunda when it was all done after having these rioters use the N-word against him 15 times and turned to another black officer and said, "Is this America?" Those officers, they're the ones that were on the front line protecting us. To think that one of them died because of his wounds and to think that another 2 of them committed suicide shortly after this happened, I think it's pretty sobering to think of what they went through and the fact that President Trump would not even send a tweet to defend our democracy while that officer was shrieking in pain at the door trying to defend it.
I was struck by the argument at the close of tonight's presentation that President Trump never called in the National Guard, never did anything to lend any backup to those officers as they were being overrun, and so many of them were being injured, and one of them was killed. That just stark statement that there's no evidence that even though the National Guard was eventually called in, no evidence that President Trump had anything to do with that. Also, the stark statement, and maybe this is a simple thing, but the stark statement earlier in the day that President Trump never once on the day of the attack condemned the violence at the Capitol. He ultimately did the next day. But while it was underway on January 6th, he didn't condemn it. And just that stark presentation about what the president didn't do left me feeling shook today at the end of this.
Not just what he did, and we all know that, the tweets leading up to it, the assault on these election officials in the month before. It is what he didn't do that day. I thought that was the most compelling case, the strongest evidence that it took hours to send even a tweet, and then he's still commending them, calling them patriots, saying he loves them. His own family members asking him to do something. Governor Christie pleading with him to do something. Kevin McCarthy going on Fox News and saying this has to stop. All the people that called the National Guard, including his own vice president, the National Guard, the head of the National Guard, published who called him, and it wasn't Donald Trump. So when you go through all of that, it just simply is, to me, it was enough by what he said when he incited the rioters, told them to march down Pennsylvania Avenue. But the final piece of evidence, I don't think you need more than that, is that he did nothing to really stop it, with Republicans crying for him to do it over and over again.
Minnesota Senator Amy Klobuchar, again, thank you for making time tonight. I know this is a difficult and sort of, at least just watching at home, it's a gut-wrenching time. Having you with us tonight's a real blessing. Thanks.
Rachel, thank you.
All right, we've got much more to come tonight. Stay with us.